All right, y'all. I decided to go ahead and record this. I didn't record the fact that I was stalked the other day. It was only like, how long ago was this that I was stalked? It was on. It was like, was it on New Year's Eve? It was before New Year's Eve. It had to be like the 30th. It was either the 30th or the 31st. What happened was that I was in town to go run some errands. And I thought I recorded this, but I didn't see it on this month's vlogs or last month's. But I was in town to run some errands, and everything was going normal, the usual blase blah. I really didn't feel like going into town, but I had to. I didn't really have a choice. And the clothing that I wore, I remember, I just needed to put something on to get out of there. I really didn't feel like going. But it was the usual tights and a little shirt. And really, that day, I really should not have been wearing it because, some days I'm plumper than others. I was plumper that day, but I really didn't care. I didn't even really do anything with my hair, and it was like, it's curly now because I washed it a couple of days ago. But that day, it was flat iron, but I didn't really do anything with it, so it was nothing to look at. And I remember the whole day I kind of like had like the attitude that I just, really didn't want to be out and about. And so I got my errands done. Of course, a young guy, you know, a young guy was trying to talk to me, but you know, nothing like serious and major. You know how they do. They just cheesy. Like he was a peddler, like peddling something, and I was like, "Oh no, thank you, sweetheart." Oh, so what's your name? But anyhow, I was like, really, you know, I I just told him, I was like, "Look, I'm not in the mood for this today, sweetie." I was just went into old lady mood real fast. And so, I went throughout the rest of my day without any it was uneventful. And then I knew that it was going to be cold in the evening, so I stopped and picked up a blazer from a thrift shop. From a thrift shop. Now the dream is coming together. It's so weird. But I picked up because I remember in the dream I had on odd clothes that I was just like, why do I have that on? But I picked up a blazer from a thrift shop, and I thought it was pretty fly because it had pink in it, but it was off pink, and it was like it was fly. It complimented what I had well, and so I had that on. So wasn't nothing really showing. I had on tights, but they were showing my legs, and um, I think I'm gonna wear that outfit again just to get that bad mojo off of it. Matter of fact, I might wear it today. But so the day was uneventful. I was on my way back to my camping grounds, and you know, I noticed like halfway through, this guy got on the bus, big black guy, and when I say black, not the dream. Oh my gosh! But he wasn't like chocolate black. He was lighter than me black. Like he was like lighter than me black. Like maybe about 3 to 4 shades lighter than me, but he still had a brown tint. And he had on this gray shirt, and his body shape was one of those with the big bellies. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't think nothing of it. I'm minding my business. And there's, I thought I recorded this, but I don't know why I don't see it. Maybe it was taken off um, by YouTube, and I didn't realize it. But usually they'll let you know, and there was no reason for them to take it off. But what ended up happening was there was him on the bus. There was this guy that got off of work on the bus, looked like a white Hispanic guy, like a nerdy white Hispanic guy between 20 and 30, or maybe he was just white. young white Hispanic guy between 20 and 25 probably is what he looked like. He might have been 20 to 30 because you know how we do. And then there was this woman that I seen that catch the bus, you know, previously about this time, and she, you know, was obviously coming from work or something. I've spoken to her in passing before, and the other guy was in a work uniform. This guy just random got on the bus, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I have to think like, where did he get on the bus at? You know, because you know the bus that I took, it's one of those buses that you know I can't think of like how he would even know that I was on the bus or anything like that because it wasn't planned. It wasn't any scheduled time or anything like a bus that I would normally catch. You know, I don't have a set schedule, and it was like nobody knew where I was gonna be or anything like that. You know, it was the weirdest thing, but I didn't think nothing of it. That's why I never would have thought that I would have been stalked. But let me tell you how the story unfolds. So as I'm sitting there, the guy keeps turning around and looking at me. And at first he's sitting in front of the guy in the work uniform. Then he sits behind him. But he keeps turning. I did record this because I remember specifically telling this story. He keeps turning around and looking at me. And I'm thinking nothing of it because I'm like, okay, you know, he thinks I look different. He thinks I look unique. He thinks I look weird. And, you know, people look at me. You know, he can look. It's no problem. I don't have no problem with that. You know, because living 40 years of my life looking the way that I look, you know, I know that I'm different. You know what I'm saying? You can look. I don't have a problem with it, you know. Yeah, just like anybody else, I'll get annoyed if you keep staring at me. But so he kept looking black, and I'm not paying no mind to it. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, you know, get it all in. It was like all eyeballs, like, you know. I was like, wow, really? And then after a while, you know, after the ride goes on, because this is a long bus ride. After the ride goes on, I'm sitting there, and next thing I know, he comes back to me and he sits in the back seat where I am, like in the middle. And you know, for me, the back seats are more comfortable. I don't know why he's sitting there, but then he says, "Look, you know, can I use your phone? You know, I really need to use your phone. You know." And I told him, you know, I said, "Oh, you know, my phone doesn't work." You know, I said the only reason that I use it is to listen to music. You know, and so I went on about my business. The odd thing I didn't notice immediately, well, I noticed it, but I didn't make an issue out of it because I'm just like, whatever, you know, it doesn't work, you know. And so instead of him asking somebody else, he just sits there. And to me, that's the oddest thing because he moved to the back. It would have been one thing if he just moved to the back and boss, that was it. And I'm like, okay, he just wants to sit back here. That's cool. But he, you know, went into the feigning of asking me, to use my phone. But then I noticed he walked all the way back there to ask me to use my phone, but he didn't ask that guy that was right by him. He didn't ask nobody else. And now, you know, instead of asking me and then getting up and going to ask someone else, because you know, again, my first thought was like, okay, maybe he thought I would be easier to give the phone than the other guy. But after he saw that I said no, he didn't immediately get up and go back to his seat or go back to ask the person. He just sat there. So it just creeped me out. So I just started gathering my stuff together, and I went to the middle of the bus, and first I went to the middle of the bus, and it's like I still felt creeped out, you know. So I moved all the way to the front, like behind the bus driver. Next thing I know, you know, I'm chilling, everything's going good. Next thing I know, he comes all the way to the front, and he didn't ask anybody else, but he asked me again. This is the scary part. You know, he asked me again to use my phone. Now, he didn't ask somebody else on the bus. You know what I'm saying? I think like he might have, like before he did that, he did maybe try to tap that lady that was on the other end. And you know, but instead of, he never asked that guy. He came all the way up to the front to ask me again. And at that point, I'm annoyed. I'm like, you know, I snatched the earphones out of my ear. I'm like, I told you, you know, my phone doesn't work. I use it only for um to listen to music, you know? And so he said, but I really need to use the phone, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just told you it doesn't work. What is the problem? You know, I didn't say that. I was like, you know, it doesn't work, you know, and I just said that. Then the bus driver turned around And I was like, why don't, did you try, I said, did you try asking anybody else, on the bus? Did you try asking the bus driver? Then when the bus driver heard me say their name, or, refer to them, this woman is very, quote unquote, swaggerific. She's really skinny, but you can tell she takes a lot of time to put herself together, and that she feels really good about herself, and she's just very neat and organized in her appearance and her demeanor. So she, snaps and was just like, what is the problem, So the guy was just like, can I use your phone? And she was just like, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. And the feeling, I can't recreate the feeling, but it was scary. And and he didn't harass her anymore about it. He left it alone. At that point, I got up and I went all the way to the back of the bus again. For the rest of the bus ride, because he's put himself in a situation where he's right behind the bus driver, so he can't keep looking at me and, all this other creepy stuff that he's doing. So he's like stiff and facing forward, but you can tell he wants to look. And I'm like keeping an eye on him because I'm just like, um, if he start acting crazy, I want to be aware. And so after a while, this guy gets on the bus, and it's a long, long ways before he even says anything. But then I guess he gets the idea because he's getting the feeling. You can tell he's trying to keep an ear out to see when I'm getting off the bus. It was so creepy, y'all. And so this guy gets on the bus after a long, long time of riding, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes more. The guy, gets the idea because he's, thinking, okay, she's got to be getting off the bus soon. So he goes back to this guy, and he's turned around, he's facing me, he's looking at me the whole time he's talking to the guy. By this time, another black guy has gotten on the bus, medium Brian Knight looking guy, tall, whatever. And so, the guy's turning around looking at me. The black guy can see that he's looking at me. He can sense the way that I'm feeling, you know. And so he's looking at me in my eyeballs while he asked this guy, oh, can I use your phone? And the guy was like, sure, and I'm sure anybody on the bus would have gave him a phone to use. It was the scariest thing. And so, he didn't even dial a number. He just started pushing, well, pushing stuff. And he was just like, oh, he's looking at me the whole time. And you could tell he wasn't calling nobody. And the other black guy on there could see that too. And he was just like, oh, their phone is off. And that was it. And he was watching for me. At that point, it was like my heart just screamed because I was like, oh my God, this dude is really watching me like that. And then I was like, in my mind thinking, what am I going to do? And I remember one of my exes was just like, change your route, this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay. And my heart wanted to get off the bus right where I was at. But I was like, if I got off there, I'm in the middle of darkness, in the middle of nowhere. And he decides to get off the next bus stop. I'm trapped, So I was like, well, I could get off at the main intersection. That would be the best thing to do. Because if I get off the main intersection, there's going to be other people at the bus stop. But that bus route itself is, in a situation where I'm not catching that bus ever again at night, but there's a situation where there's just, even on that main road, that particular part of where that main road is, there's no, it's not the main thoroughfare. I thought it was going to be where, because usually on that street there's like this bus stop where there's a lot of people, but then I realized, oh, this is this bus. Not everybody's there, and there wasn't anybody there. Two people got off the bus with me. It was a like a little white Hispanic guy, and as soon as he got off the bus, he took off because whatever was going on, he didn't want to be a part of it, so he took off. And then I felt somebody get off behind me, and it's like my head just whipped around, and I saw the Brian Knight looking guy, and I was like, okay, but you could feel probably the heart attack that I was having. And I looked at the bus to see if that guy had got off or not. But there's a part two to this story because this is gonna be too long. And so the Brian McKnight looking guy, he got off and went across the street. And I was thinking to myself the whole time, that guy that was stalking me, he's gonna get off the bus, the next bus stop. I knew this before we was anywhere near that stop, but I knew he was going to get off at the next stop and just kind of like try to backtrack, and that's exactly what he did. Long story short, I ended up having to run to this restaurant, went to the restaurant, and luckily one of the guys there recognized me from, the area. And what ended up happening, the guy was still stalking me. He did walk back, like I said, from the other bus stop, and the Brian McKnight looking guy was kind of watching out for me. I thought he was acting weird because he was stopping at the railroad tracks and looking at me, like didn't want to make me uncomfortable, but he was just watching out to make sure I was alright. But then it's like after I walked up the street, the other guy walked, you know, through and saw me at the bus stop. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when I ran and took off to the restaurant. And then the guy I didn't know was watching me from across the street at church. The girl at the restaurant saw it and she told me. And she ended up, anyway, I ended up getting a ride home. And I probably didn't decided not to